shelf in the back half.
I'm trying to put the shelf in the background. I think you're going to have to move closer to me.
There we go.
I know.
I was like doing it the other way.
Okay. Well, let's start with this one. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this video is going to be the book wrap-up of what I've read in January. Okay, so today you might have seen a new face here, and that is because my daughter and I are participating in a challenge that is going to go all year long. This challenge is hosted by Chantel from An Intentional Life. I am in your sister's room. Bar. My daughter learned that last year I read 144-ish books in the year of 2020, and she looked at me and said, "No, Mom, this year I'm gonna beat you." So that's another reason why I am including her in today's video. So Emma, so far this year, how many books have you read?
I've read 16 books.
Anyway, so you repeat those numbers again for me. How many?
16.
And I have read 9. So, the first thing we're going to start off with is the book that we chose for January for Chantel's Read Your Shelves book challenge. And the first challenge is something to do with home in it.
Yeah.
And so she had like a door, room, and she had a Agatha Christie mirror cracked from side to side. And so we took this around my January. We ended up having the same prompt unintentionally. Desk. I'm going to put this down so I don't cover your face. So I read Front Desk by Kelly Yang, and Emma read
From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Janae Marks.
So Front Desk is about a Chinese immigrant family who, let me try not to cover her head.
That's fine.
Chinese immigrant family that come to America and basically end up kind of overseeing a motel. I think it would be a motel in California, expensive California. I thought that was interesting. And basically the owner of the hotel is just taking advantage of immigrants and using it to his advantage, so they have a really hard life. And so what ends up happening in the book is that the girl at the front desk, Mia at the front desk basically just kind of finds ways to help her family to make this motel go a little better. Can you sit down? I can't really do this right now. To make this motel a little bit better. Not just for her family, but for the people that come here anyway, to kind of, she's just full of ideas. And so, I actually had given this to Emma to read a couple of months ago, and she got, I don't know, a third of the way through, brought it back to me and said, "I don't want to read this, I don't like it at all." Which kind of surprised me. I was like, okay, you don't normally do that. If there's even something objectionable, you kind of just plow through with it. So I was really curious, and what she was describing to me, I was like, this, I don't know if this should be in a middle grade. It kind of has, okay, John, we can't do this right now. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Egypt game, where there was just a man that was in that book. In the Egypt game, there is a man that basically is a murderer, and the book can get a little bit intense for a middle grade book. And so I wondered if this was something similar. As a matter of fact, what happened, and Emma stopped earlier, is that there is a drunk man that this girl at the front desk didn't know what to do. She let him in, and it turned out not to be the wisest decision. Then you kind of have basically a security, the local adopted security guard, just a guy that lives at the motel, come and save her, and just that, nothing beyond other than an attack, and it was fine. For a middle grade book, I thought it was completely fine, and it also kind of shows the dangers of but what happened is it opened the door, because this book covers a lot of racism, prejudices, and things like that. So there's not just Chinese immigration racial prejudices. There's a black, there's Hispanic, and there's just a lot of even within even within, like the Chinese man here doesn't trust any blacks. The blacks don't trust different people, the whites or policemen or whatever. Like, there's just a whole bunch of all of that covered in this. And so using the drunk man kind of opened a door to more problems that come up and that are addressed in this book. Insofar as my review on it, it was like a 3-star read. It read like a middle grade, and it's really hard for me to get like a 4 or 5-star rating for middle grade. I think a lot of times they kind of just they don't bring the quality up. They kind of just keep it level with a lot of what we deal with today. But I actually thought it was a really good book.
I read this one and I thought this one was a really good book. So this book follows a girl. She never really knew her father because when she was 5 years old, he was accused of a crime he never committed. Some people say he committed it, like her mother, and her grandmother thinks he's innocent. So she is trying to figure out how to find out if her father is innocent or not. And one of her best friends did something that she never really became a best friend to anymore, more of like an enemy now. And she tries to ignore him, and he keeps following her around and trying to help her, and they soon come together and find out that her father is innocent, and that...
With the friend that became the enemy?
Yeah. So first it was a friend, like best friend, then it was an enemy, and then now they're like best friends back again. And so she tries to get her mom to say that the father's innocent, and the mother keeps saying he's not, and she does a lot of things she's not supposed to. Like on her birthday, she got a letter from her dad from jail, and her mother doesn't want her writing to her father, so she keeps the letters a secret, and then her grandma finds out. She helps her for a little bit, and then she tells her mom, well, her daughter, she tells Zoe.
The grandma tells
her daughter.
Tells the mom.
Tells the mom that she has been helping Zoe write letters back and forth to her dad. So that's when the mom starts getting really bad and won't let her write to her dad anymore. And then Zoe tries to persuade her that her dad is innocent. And they find the one lady. In here, there was a girl that Marcus was with.
Marcus is the dad?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The dad was with one girl when the murder happened, and they were Zoe and the one boy were trying to find out if they could find the one girl, so the one girl could say that the father was innocent. So they end up finding her, and the mother now realizes that she was wrong and that Marcus, the dad, was really innocent. And then he gets out of jail, and the real murderer was put into jail, and then happily ever after happened.
Alright.
So it was just...
Why did you like it?
I don't know. That's the thing. It was like really good, but...
Justice prevailed.
It was really good, but you don't know why it was so good. I read this thing in 2 days, and it's like 300 pages. I want to get that book and see how good it really is.
Look at the library. So, that's what we meant for our January Read Your Bookshelves challenge. And actually, I have a personal challenge going on all for myself, and that is just to read my bookshelves. There are 2 books here that I talked about wanting to read in my what I want to read this year video. And one of them was In the Shadow of Croft Towers by Abigail Wilson. I picked this up at Ollie's because I believed my mom had raved about this. You don't have to stay here if you don't want to. You can go finish writing your books. Or letters. Because I believed my mom had raved about it. I distinctly remember sitting at Denny's with her and her raving about this. It might have been the Lighthouse. But anyway, she commented and said, no. Yeah, and I read her review on it from the blog, and the more I was reading about it and the more I was looking at more into this, I was like, I'm really not interested in this. So this is going to go. And We Were the Lucky Ones by Georgia Hunter was another one that I was like, I really want to read this year. And a couple of you reached out and were like, okay, well, let us know how this is interesting to you. I can't think of the word. I can't speak today. And then my friend texted me and she's like, you started to read this. I'm like, I did? And I started reading it again. I was like, I did start to read this. And I actually had put this in the get rid of pile. I decided I didn't want to read it. So, yeah, I'm not going to read that one either. There is so many World War II books out there. There's so much to read. And I didn't really want to read it. So, those two are now off my list and they're going to go. And then, let's kind of get into some of these other books I've read. I read, because of Winn-Dixie, it was like one of the first books I read this year. Never read it before in my entire life. I've kind of been hesitant to read that because I knew that the main character has a preacher for a father, and I don't like how authors typically portray preachers. They either are the strict, overbearing person, or they're just a dim-witted random personality, and I don't like how a lot of authors do that to preachers. So I've been hesitant, but I read it and I really liked that book. I really liked how the relationship with her and her father was. I really liked how this dog had such a personality, and it was a really sweet book. And that one will probably stay on my shelves. And it's a middle grade book, so it's kind of hard to really talk a lot about it, but I genuinely did really like that book. So I read that one and I really liked it, and then I read two more middle grade books. The first one is Locomotive by Jacqueline Woodson, who has written a lot of Newbery winners, Caldecott winners, things like that. This one is about a boy in the foster system, and he and his sister are split, and he likes to write poetry in his class, and he has a teacher that kind of stifles that, and so he kind of goes back and forth with writing and whatnot. This is told in free verse. It is a very short book. I was able to read it in one sitting. It's got like 100 pages all in free verse. I don't do well with free verse. There is no story here. It's just poetry that I don't necessarily get. It does kind of switch from poetry to more of a, just more like an essay writing, because of the teacher that says he doesn't like poetry, so he kind of stops and then he needs to write something for school, and so he picks it up again. But honestly, it was okay. It was like a 2-3 star read. It was just okay. And I know a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I don't do well with free verse. But I really liked the foster care aspect. Because of the fact that both of them are placed in a foster care that it works well. Not works well, but like they're nice foster care people, which I appreciate, because it seems like a lot of books kind of talk about the evils of foster care and not necessarily the positives. And as somebody that would like to do foster care at one point, I'm looking for books that kind of... It's hard. Like, foster care is hard because, I mean, he and his sister are split. But at the same time, it's not that they're abused, they're treated awful. It's nothing like that. And I think in this one you learn that his foster mother has 2 other boys, and they're going to come and play a part in the story in the next book. So this one, again, was okay. Again, I really appreciated the fact that it kind of put foster care was told in a positive light, but it kind of also talked about some of the hardships that they kind of face not having each other, and some of the dreams they have, and things like that. So all in all, I was impressed by the book, but again, the free verse was just really hard for me. And then I picked up the second one, which is actually told in letter form with a little bit of free verse in here. So this one actually I liked a lot better. I could actually get into a story more. Again, this is just, it's so broken up, and it's, I just don't do well with free verse for that reason. A lot of books with the free verse, I'm like, where's the story? I'm just getting words. So this one went a lot better, and it, I think I read it again in about maybe a day and a half, just with the reading time that I have. And then this one, you actually get more of his stepbrothers into the picture. One comes back from Vietnam, but he comes back without his legs, and I think to a certain extent he's blind. So that's kind of another aspect of this book. I really love this cover. This cover I love so much. Anyway, so I love this cover. I liked this book a lot more, and I think it had more depth to the foster care and kind of working with family dynamics. Like you're there, your family, but are you? It was really good in that sense. And I'm sorry, I keep getting interrupted, so my train of thought is now gone. But I liked this one a lot more. And then I have one more kind of middle grade. I would say this is more YA, I think. So I'll talk about that. So this title is, I love the title, and that's actually why I picked this book up. I adored this title. So in this story, you have a very flighty mom. Yes? This book, you have a very flighty mom and 3 kids. The oldest ones are a set of twins. Dad is not in the picture at all. And then the second daughter in here has a different dad, and she sees him, and he's kind of like the rich dad that, yeah, pretty much. He's the dad that buys whatever she wants, gives her whatever she wants, and life is really fun when she goes there. So there is kind of that whole aspect of this book. And what happens is this family moves all over the place all the time. Whatever inspires the mom, they move. They end up in Walnut Grove because the mom decided that she is going to write this book called Prairie Girl, and and Laura Ingalls' spirit has guided her there. So that in and itself tells you where my first impressions are. I don't do the whole spiritualism, and the mom is so into, let's not have any negativity in this family because of bad karma. Like every time the kids have an objection, she's just like, you're not thinking positive, you're bringing bad karma, you're bringing bad vibes and juju, all this into our home. You just need to think positive. So there is no structure for these children. And I have talked so many times, especially during middle grade March. Like any book that you want to know how I feel about this kind of relationship of parent and child, watch any middle grade March book reviews that I have done, because seriously, I get so upset at these kind of parenting. This is not parenting. So there's that. And these kids are just like, Mom, we need life, we need liberty, and we need the pursuit of happiness. Not really. These kids are just wanting a normal life, not being jumped from place to place on mom's whims, which, by the way, the mom ended up owing money, couldn't pay it, and that's how they ended up here in Walnut Grove. She couldn't pay, so they escaped. So they didn't have to. Yeah. So this whole book basically is just this one girl. She's whiny, she's upset, understandably, I get all of that, over the fact that she just doesn't have a life. She refuses to make any friends because why bother? We're all going to leave at one point, and I hate everybody, and everybody's an Ellie Olsen kind of personality. She is not a likable character. And her brother kind of have this pact. Well, one week, she ends up sick, and basically the boy turns into a popular kid at school. and now she's enemies with her twin brother. The book doesn't just get better, it just keeps getting worse, and she just is not a likable character. And then the dad for the daughter ends up getting married, having another family, and basically kind of just throwing the other daughter aside is what we are led to believe. And again, it's like, okay, cliche. And then not only that, mom basically can't find inspiration of her book, so she turns into this blubbery, depressed mess, and everybody is supposed to just go along with the fact that she's not being a mother now, and the twins are having to. Now, I want to do a disclaimer here. I have somebody very dear and near to me that suffers from depression. So, I understand that kind of lifestyle. However, I also know that you don't necessarily have clinical depression. You can have where you just put yourself into a depression when life isn't going the way you want. I've also had to deal with a lot of that in my life. So, this mom just irritates me. She's not a mom, she's just a babysitter. There is no parentalness here, and anytime the mom decides that she is going to exert parental authority, you're just like, now you're going to do it? Now? I mean, there has been no structure, nothing, all this time. How are these kids supposed to know what is right and wrong? And now you're going to put this parental authority in? So, all in all, like, the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm getting irritated about this book, and I don't like it. So, I think I gave it 2 stars. There was some things in here that I did appreciate. She kind of manipulates the teacher, but the teacher kind of turns it around on her and gives her assignments to read more about the Western expansion and kind of what that looks like. And so what I liked how the author did with this is she took Laura Ingalls and then she just kind of expounded on that from a broader perspective without bashing Laura Ingalls' books. Or I believed that I don't think she was bashing Laura Ingalls' books, which I appreciated, okay, because there's a lot more to the story. And as somebody that grew up with Little House on the Prairie, I know not everybody's going to agree with me on this. I liked that she didn't bash, like the author's goal wasn't to just start tearing apart Laura Ingalls' works, but her goal was to kind of expand on that. So that was credited, or to her credit in that, but I'm not keeping this book. Okay, then I have some adult books here. I'm going to start with my least favorite, Line by Line by Jennifer Delamere, and it is a typical Christian romance. It's clean, but the whole premise of the book is that she decides she doesn't want a man. She meets a man in this place where she works, where there is there's a guy that's basically anti-woman working, so basically her nemesis, the person that she has to fight against all the time, she ends up with this book that is kind of how to manipulate men, and she uses it and kind of realizes the backfiring of using such a book to basically get what she wants from a man. But all this time, she's kind of falling in love with one of the top workers here at this office. And she is a telegraph operator. Not a telephone, a telegraph operator. Which I thought that was fascinating, and I wish there was a little bit more information of that, but it was very sprinkled throughout. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong. It's just a nice, clean, fluffy, romantic novel, if you want to read it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to make me want more of it. But Collision of Lies by Tom Threadgill, and this is also a Christian, but I would call it a clean fiction. I don't ever remember any Christianity mentioned in here, except maybe for like a, whispered prayer in an intense situation. I genuinely don't remember anything Christian about it. I would just call it a clean thriller. I would call it a clean thriller. And this is about kind of a rookie? I'm not sure what she is, but she works basically in the crime division, so burglaries and things like that, and she wants to kind of work in, like, being a detective. And so what happens is there was this bus accident like 3 years ago, might have been a little bit more. There was a bus accident, and 3 years later, one of the parents of the kids that died from this horrific bus incident receives a call basically saying, "I'm sorry, mommy." And then another parent receives a letter on the windshield that, or "I'm here, mommy, I'm safe, mommy," or something like that. And then the other parent receives a letter that's saying, "I'm sorry." And so this detective is trying to show why, it's just somebody pulling a prank, and then she's starting to uncover more and more stuff. And there's only so much I can share about this, because it is a mystery and it's a thriller. There's not a whole lot you can say, but I loved this so much. I loved that it wasn't the kind of thing that you expect. I liked that they didn't play a whole lot on, what is the word when, there's a word and I can't think of it, that basically it's not cliche, but they all use the same format for their stories. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word. But this probably was my favorite book I have read this month, for sure. There's some things in here that were a little disturbing, but cleaned disturbing. So one of the things that she's investigating is all these robberies, and then she finds a link between all the robberies. And it's a little disturbing, but it isn't playing a part of this bus. So I thought that was really interesting. And so, anyway, really enjoyed this book. I would recommend, especially if you like thrillers and suspense and mystery. This is clean. Again, I don't remember a whole lot of Christian in here, but definitely clean. Yeah, I really liked this one. And then finally, I finished Louise Penny's Still Life. I showed the other Louise Penny book in my What I Want to Read This Year, and everybody's like, read the first one, Still Life. And I was like, oh yeah, I have the first one. I picked that. The other one I showed is because I had found another one at a thrift store, and I picked it up and then realized I had two of the same book, and so I just had that out. But I do have Still Life. I had picked it up. And so this is my first Louise Penny Inspector Gamache book, and I think it reads a lot like British mystery. And so I watch a lot of British mystery. And so some of you might understand this if you do that as well. So I think this has a lot of Endeavor vibes to it. Endeavor is like an hour and a half, 2 hour mystery that's broken up. And it's very slow going, and there's a lot of pieces to put together, and there's a community aspect of it, so you kind of get a community part of it. And so and then the inspector in here Inspector Gamache reminds me a lot of Foyle from Foyle's War, who's very sweet and gentle, but when he's firm, he's firm. And that, he reminded me a lot of Foyle. And so I do watch a lot of British mystery. I really love the Grantchester mysteries, which are nothing like the books. The TV series are nothing like the books, and that kind of bothers me. I liked the books a lot better, which for the most part doesn't say, but I like to watch those. I like Father Brown. Again, books are so much better than the TV shows. But the thing about British mysteries is you can have a couple of episodes where you really like them, and then they just kind of start going downhill, and I have a feeling this is going to be similar. I just have this gut feeling. Well, this takes place in Canada, and so the border of Canada and the U.S., I believe Quebec plays a part in here because they have French and English-speaking people. And the mystery in this, I kind of figured out pretty early on who it was, but there was enough mystery to it that I was second guessing myself, and I really appreciate that. Another thing that I kept getting warned about was the language. And I swear for the first half of the book, I'm like, I don't think there's any more language in here than anything else. I would say the Alice Network that I've read was a whole lot worse. Didn't like that book from the language and some of the other stuff. And then the second half, it's like the language really picked up and it just kept going. And I actually have a harder time reading language than listening to language. When I'm reading it, it's like the word is seared in my head. But if I'm hearing it, like it's jumping on and you're trying to follow the story more. So it's easier for me to hear it than to read it. Again, it also has to just do with in the world, I hear it all around me all the time. You learn to tune it out. So that got a little bit difficult for me towards the end, and it just kept picking up and up and up, and I swear it was kind of like an anticlimax for the language. So I do agree with that. But all in all, I enjoyed the mystery of it. It was very slow. And again, it kind of reminded me of a Miss Marple where you just have just a slow moving of things and you're trying to piece together. For me, a lot of this, it was like a Miss Marple in that I knew who did it. Just some of the clues left. I was like, okay, that person did it. But now I need to figure out why. Why did this person do it? And that was kind of a mystery to me, and I didn't fully figure it out. Like, I knew, but I didn't, and I was trying to piece it together. And then, again, there is a lot of clues here for you to figure it out. I think there is so many clues and I think that's why sometimes you're just second guessing yourself. Like, okay, this is almost too obvious. Does that mean? And so that I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So I read 8 books, and one of my other goals for this year was to do a nonfiction, and I have like 3 started right now, and it all has to do with kind of spiritual growth. And they're just not going to get done. I take more time to read it, but this is a biography, and I thought that this was going to be a fictionalized book of the Romanov history, but it's not. It's a biography. And I am about third of the way through this, and I have earmarks so I can take notes. I started this yesterday. Actually, no, I started this today's Saturday. I started Thursday night and got maybe a chapter in, and so a lot of this was just read yesterday. So I think this is going to go really quickly. Today's the 30th. I don't think I'll finish this before Monday, but I feel pretty good about my progress in this. This is reading really easily as a nonfiction, but I feel like it's very choppy. And so what the author wants to get to is she wants to get to this whole person that came up and claimed herself to be the Lost Duchess Anastasia, that she really wasn't killed and she's completely fine. And so it's getting to basically her story and how it could or couldn't have been. And so we only have like this short little bit of the Romanov family. And I think this is under the assumption that you know more of the Romanov family, and I don't. This is not her first book. She has written Romanovs and Mr. Gibbs. So she wrote a whole one on Romanovs, and so this is the Romanov fantasy, which is basically more about Anna. And I think that's why this is a little bit difficult for me. I think I should have read a book more about the Romanovs before diving into this one, because I feel like it's really choppy and we're just kind of jumping all over the place with this character that played a part, this person, and that person, and now we're on to Anna. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to put all the people together. But all in all, I'm finding it really fascinating. And I expect I will get this finished. But now I really want to know who this Romanov family is. I don't know much of Russian history what more of Lithuanian? Like, I need more world history here. So, I'm really liking this, and that's going to be the last book to share with you. This is going to be a very long video, and I don't know how much I can cut out. So, thank you if you have lasted all this time of spending this time with me reading these books. Again, I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to books like this. So, the fact that you stick around and watch with them with me is phenomenal. I hope you watched it on quick speed. That's the best way to do it. So, I will leave this here, and the next video you will see with the books that I share will be what my daughter and I have planned. Wait, no, you're not doing this. My daughter and I, for the whole year, she'll be in here, and we're going to share the challenges that Chantal did for our Read Your Bookshelf. But the next video you will see is what I'm going to do for the Historathon. Are you doing it?
Yeah, I said I was doing it.
She was doing it. You'll see what I have chosen for the Historathon this year, hosted by the people down below. I'm just going to leave them down below because I can't remember the channels. I know people by first names, and then I have a hard time remembering the channel names. So, sorry everyone. So I will be sharing that. Sodbuster Living is just full of a diverse range because I just like sharing all the things that I enjoy doing, and different people can be here for the different things. I don't do well with multiple channels, multiple whatever, I can't think of the word. If I can just have everything in one place, that'll be better for me. So just stick around and watch what interests you and all of that fun stuff. So stick around for that video. I'm not sure when homeschool videos are going to be up because honestly we're just plugging along, figuring out what we want to do and how we want to do it. Reading while we can, living while we can, and spring is coming, which is going to be fun for us on the homestead here, our little city homestead. So that's it for today. And until next time, have another cup of coffee and read another chapter.